Hello everyone. Today we're going to be doing the lesson analysis companion video to last week's Khanada performance. So let's get right to it. Let's do a little piano and then we'll do some bass. Here we go. Alright, so there are really only 4 distinct chords in this song, and they are D, C, G, and then A minor. And we'll go over how each of those are used. Of course, there are embellishments and flourishes, whatever you want to call it, but those are the basic chords. All right, so let's start at the beginning. Let's just play a little bit of it so we know what part we're talking about here. So this is the very beginning. Okay, so those are our major chords, and by the way, this song is roughly 25 cents sharp, so that's what I brought it down. Right now we are basically in concert pitch. So here we go. It's D to C to G. And the guitar is roughly doing something suspended like this. So Andy's going up to the 4th there. Very typical thing for him to do, and sounds great there. And when we get to the verses, it's just A minor to G. So A minor to G major. Let's listen to that. Right? So it's just. Now, of course, John is doing something crazy, but we'll go over that in more detail when we get to the bass part. And then the chorus is really the same chords, but Simon is making it this crazy, like jazzy -10 chord, because normally the 10th would be the same as the 3rd, so major, but he's doing minor. So even though if you listen closely, the guitar in the chorus is still going. Simon is singing so he's doing that F natural way on top, and that's giving it that real push and pull, and it's very effective. And when we get to the end of the song, it's just A minor. It's just vamping on. Let's listen to that just a little bit. And those little licks are just E, F sharp, G. And it just does that till the end of the song. So those are the very basic chords. Now let's do a little bass. Actually, before we get into the bass, let's just talk a little bit about the song. Just a little bit about the song history. So this song, according to the Wiki, is pronounced Khanada, and that's because it was about a girl named Jane Khan. And so that makes sense, right? Khanada. And of course, when I was a kid, my brother and I used to say Canada, just because we were dumb little dudes. And that's kind of funny to me now. But anyway, I guess we weren't really listening to Simon sing the chorus, were we? And there's not much else to say about it, because there aren't really a lot of versions of the song except for the live version, an 81 live version, which we're going to take a look at in a little bit. So yeah, it was the B-side to Careless Memories, which was the 2nd single from the debut album, Duran Duran. And so as far as the live version, I want to say that when I'm getting prepared for these things, when I'm learning the song, I always look for these live versions, because they can really tell us a lot about the parts that maybe we can't necessarily hear well enough in the recorded version. Even when I take them into Pro Tools and try to use tools to separate out the bass, I'm not using anything terribly fancy, so there's only so much you can do with those kinds of tools. And unless you have the actual individual tracks, it's pretty hard to tell what's happening. But sometimes listen to the live version really, really helps. So in this case, the live version let me know of a couple of cool things. First of all, he's really simplifying the bass in the live version. Take a listen to the chorus. Although we haven't played the original yet, trust me, this is way simplified. It is not like that in the original version. It's much more complicated. And that's not the only part where it's simplified, but the other part that was really cool was the end. Let me try to get to the end here. So do you hear that? He's going. And we're going to go into that when we get to the end of the song, but there's definitely some hitting of the strings, kind of snapping on the string in the pickup, just kind of this kind of a thing. And I don't think I would have picked up on that necessarily had I not listened to the live version. So always listen to a live version if you can. Alrighty, let's switch over. Now we're in bass time. As you can see, I'm playing the Dingwall today because I want to make a point about using 5-string, not just using 5-string for playing these low notes down here, but to help you finger things that might be more difficult on a 4-string. Of course, the song was played on a 4-string and I played it on a 4-string, and I wouldn't really use a 5-string, but I just wanted to make a couple points, and I just wanted to play it because, you know, hey, I love playing this bass, so let's play it. And I am going through a little bit of overdrive using one of my new toys over there, but we can talk about that another day. Now, as I mentioned in the intro to the performance, this song is really tough because not a lot of things repeat. There's pretty much kind of an ad-lib thing happening, specifically during the choruses. The verses are a little more consistent, but I will just say right now, I didn't play it 100% like the recording because I would have been there all day. It took me a long time to record it, actually, because I was trying to do my best to get it 100%, but I think I ended up being more like 85%, and I just went for the feel. Like I always say, just go for the feel. Just have fun with it. Obviously, even John, when it came to playing it live, said, screw that, I'm totally going to simplify it because that's a lot of work. So here we go. We will kind of focus on this intro section and dive into that just a little bit. Here we go. So right away, when I threw that into all my fancy tools, it said that the song is actually going. Even though, if you asked me, I would say it just goes. You don't really hear that pickup, and I suspect you don't hear it because it was a pretty popular production technique to duck the bass guitar while the bass drum hits. So those are the exact beats that Roger's hitting, and I think that note just gets buried in the bass drum. So right off the bat, if you want to simplify the line, just don't play that pickup, just play. You could maybe do a little ghost note pickup like I just did right there, but it's much tougher to go. And that brings me to the 5-string, because if you use a 5-string, you could do that line and save yourself a lot of jumping around. The first variation here you can do on a 4-string, because what I'm going to do is go like this. But what you can't do on a 4-string is then go. See, if I ignore that B string, I'd have to go like this. I have to go way down so that if I'm going to play those pickups, because there's no real easy way to go C to F unless you're right here. But remember, we were trying to make our life easier with the first line by going. But then we're up here for this C, so we have to go. But if you have a 5 string, you can utilize that low B and go. Okay, so I think I've made my point with that. And let's continue on. Actually, right there is one of my favorite licks, and I definitely kept it in because he's gone. So it's F, G, G, and then like a hammer-on from the C to the D, back to a G. So the whole thing would be. And then when you go back into it, we're going to have fun with our first pluck. And the second line is pretty tough to hear, but it kind of sounds like he's going into the first verse. Let's listen. It's really hard to hear it, but yeah, I think it's going. And then we're into the first verse. So the first verse is where John does one of his crazy things, because even though it's A minor to G major, John is going, for the first chord, he cooperates. In a sense, he goes. But the second chord, he goes. So that's a B flat. But we're playing G major. So again, he's given it kind of that bluesy feel. I didn't practice this. Let me see if I can illustrate that. See that? So even though we're here, and then it goes to the lick. Okay, right there where it goes into the verse out of the intro, there's a tricky part where you need to just really listen to the timing. Let's hear it. So when you go out of that, you wait for the downbeat. Doom. And there's another very important lesson there. When you're doing that pattern, basically the verses are going to switch between that pattern and the one I'm going to show you right now. And what we're doing there is when you're going like this, you're always going to do at the end of that. For the B part of that pattern, you're going to be getting into this reggae sort of thing. And the lick to end that is similar, but not the same. It goes. So they're both providing that triplet feel. Again, a very reggae thing to do. But with the first pattern, you're ending it with. And with the second pattern, you're always going to end it with. This first verse is a little tricky at the end. I don't even know your name. So for the I don't even know your name, that's your cue. You're gonna flip back into. I don't know if that was a mistake or if it was just something clever that John wanted to do, but really the first part of that was the B section or the B pattern where you're going. I guess he didn't want to end on that, or he just forgot and advanced to the other part just right in the middle of that because he goes right to. And and then we're into the first chorus there. So let's just go over those verse A and B parts real quick. It's just G, A, C, back to A. So G, A, C, A, repeat. That same pattern, even though it's a major chord, we're going to stick to that pattern to play this B flat. So it's F, G, B flat, G. And then the lick, G, F, E, D. All natural notes. But it's a triplet, right? Triplet D. So G, F, E, D. So that's the A pattern. And the B pattern is real easy because it's just fifths. So it's, and you could kind of think of that as, it's on the offbeat too. It's very reggae. So 1. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So there's actually 5 notes in that. No, 6 notes in that, right? Including the A. So A and then 5 E's. Same with the G. G, D, 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 D. And then that lick, remember it's the B lick, it's F, G, F, D. So triplets. Triplet D. So you're going to be alternating between those. Okay, then we go into the chorus. I will be here all day if we try to figure out every single little chorus. So what I'm going to do is let's listen to the live version, because I think at least when you're beginning to play the song, you should learn the live version because it's way easier. Let's listen to that. So real easy, right? You're just going. Or you're doing the octave actually. You could also mix it up, right? If you want to do that pluck, if you've got it down and you want to do it, you could go. Maybe you want to do an octave lower on one of them. So yeah, play the live version just to give yourself a break. All right, let's switch back to the recorded version and just kind of play around with it a little bit. So if you're going to do it the way I did it last week and try to play every note, and I'll try to do it here on this Dingwall. It's a bigger stretch here than on the RESP 1000, but let's try it. So it would be something like 1, 2, 3, 4. So what we're doing there is we're going. So always think in terms of those sixteenths. I know I've said it before, but I just can't say it enough. That's what's going to make your part sound funky, and it's going to help you introduce those ghost notes. So instead of just doing it really straight and going doo-doo, geek da doo-doo, geek da doo-doo, you're kind of going doo-doo, geek da doo-doo, geek da doo-doo. I know that kind of sounds funny, but that's the way I think of it in my head. And if you can do that without really thinking about it, that's when you really gain that ultimate freedom of expression. So those are basically the notes to the choruses. There are lots of little variations, but we're just not going to go into it. Back to the live version for a bit though. And here's something I did do last week. I had to sneak in this little lick. Let me play it because it's so great. So out of the choruses, at least the first one, John does this. I don't believe in nobody's. So that's basically, it's like B flat to C, like a hammer on, and then just G chromatic down, G, F sharp, F. I think it's a cool little way to get out of that and go back into a verse. So you go back into the second verse, and the song's really easy, right? It's like intro, first verse, with that kind of weird ending going back to the B section, and then first chorus, second verse, second chorus, and then we are at the end, which is just a vamp. The end is kind of tricky. So again, let's play the live version just so you can really hear those clicks. So you hear that? In the live version, he does that much more often. He does that at every revolution. The recorded version, we wait. So we have to count 7, and then on the 8th one, we do it. So let's go back to the recorded version. So that's the most difficult part, is counting it. What I had to do in my head was, like I just mentioned, I counted 7, even though the stomp, if you're going to do the stomp, I'm going to call this the stomp. Even though the stomp is right on the beat, so that would be 1, and you're doing the A on the 2 and the 4 like a snare drum. Let's see if I can count it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like that. That way you know that on the 8th beat, or when you get to the end of that second bar, you're going to do the lick. E, F sharp, G. Now the second time he doesn't do. He just goes, or whatever you want to do. Just cool little slide there. That's optional, of course. And there is one time in the recorded version where instead of going E, F sharp, G natural, he actually goes E, G, G sharp. I don't think anybody but John does that, and I would just chalk it up to a mistake, or maybe it's a thing that we bass players can do sometimes, is we get excited and we pull the note sharp, like, right? Like you go. So it could be that. It was probably that, just getting a little excited. So let's just say it's E, F sharp, G. So doing that a little more slowly, and it's hard, so if you can't do it, just focus on. And then when you can, your fingers will sort of naturally bounce to that downbeat, right? So you can go. So what I'm doing there is I'm going. So kind of a finger slap, or like a pickup finger slap. I don't know. I don't really know what to call it. Like a mute slap. So it's like a mute slap. Ghost note, ghost note. So takat. And getting out of that, if you're gonna do it the whole way, you're going to hit one of those mute slaps right after the G natural. Yeah, it can be a little tricky, especially at speed. It's kind of fast, but you don't have to do it. Like I said, just on the 2 and 4 if you can't. So there you go. That's basically the entire song. Now, the only other thing I want to say about the song is just to point out, there was a comment on my last video that said that they really appreciated this early kind of experimental Duran time, and they mentioned the reggae feel. And I thought of the Police. You know, the Police were definitely doing their thing, and no doubt there's a little influence there with that reggae feel and, you know, the triplets. So, yeah, just kind of wanted to mention that. All right. Hope you learned something. Hope you thought that was fun, and see you next week. All right, bye.